Hello, I'm Caroline Goulard. I created 2 companies in the field of data visualization. I've been working for more than 10 years to build bridges between human and data, and I'm very happy to be with you today for this new episode of The Bridge, the media by Artefact that makes data and artificial intelligence understandable for everyone. Today we are with Robin Doumerc. Robin, hello.
Hello.
Could you introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Robin Doumerc. I'm the CTO of Artefact, so I'm handling all the engineering organization there.
So you are leading a team of more than 100 engineers, developers. How are you structured? What are your challenges?
So my team is composed of 3 teams. Front-end engineering, where we present results to the client. Back-end engineering and all the data engineering, where the magic happens and where we bring all the data. And data science, where we make AI.
So it's 3 very separate teams, or do they have bridges between themselves?
It used to be very separated, and last year we restructured to create one unified team in order to break some silos and find more synergy between the teams.
And was it difficult, or do you have one recipe for that?
There's no one recipe for it. It was not difficult, but there's still some challenges. How do we keep the culture of each separate team still very present, and at the same time allow them to have more connection between each other and find more fluidity between them?
And so when you wake up in the morning, you go to the office. What are your main challenges? What are you working on daily?
First of all, I'm working on my client projects. I'm handling still many client projects, being still hands-on. So they faces many challenges, organizational challenge, technical challenge, and my first job is to help actually my clients. Then I have internal challenges. I strive to have a high-performing team, so they have their own set of challenges and they come to me to help them or coach them in order to solve this and make them overcome the challenges.
And so what about generative AI related to the performance you are looking for? Does it change something for you? Is it helpful?
Generative AI is very helpful, especially when we're tackling new challenges and new problematics we never experienced before. It used to be a bit of a rough patch when we had to learn and discover new topics, and sometimes it was taking us time to actually understand the whole problem very well. And now generative AI helps us go through a first impression of the problem very quickly and help us guide us in order to find steps to solve these problems.
And so at the end, does it mean that you are doing the same kind of work in less time? Is it productivity or is it quality that's different?
It's a bit of both. We see sometimes on some kind of problem where we actually discovering this new problem, we tackle this challenge quicker. But as well, on topics that we know, often we are under the pressure of time. We need to deliver projects quickly. And usually documentation or like some best practices can be a bit overlooked because we are under time pressure. And generative AI help us actually do all this critical work, but sometimes overlooked in the time frame we have.
We're talking about code. Do you code quicker with generative AI? Because this is a bit the myth.
Absolutely. I don't think it's a myth. I think it's a reality. We do code quicker, and especially going from the idea to the prototype, this is now extremely quick. We can have some ideas where it used to be a few days, we needed to have a working prototype. Now it's a matter of minutes.
And do you see the same kind of thing on your client's project, on your client sides and organization?
Sometimes. However, usually in our client projects, the code aspect of things is actually just a small piece of the puzzle. And so even if the code goes faster, there's a lot of organizational challenge, communication challenge, and this is what makes actually a real product. And these challenges are not overcome by generative AI, but the software piece is definitely going quicker, and coding faster helps us as well iterate faster, so we can as well just improve and have more communication.
And do you see some organizational challenge, not only in how the project is structured or how the project is going, but also training people on those generative AI new skills?
Yes, absolutely. Training is a key part of generative AI because it's a very powerful tool that is at the hand of everyone. However, there is as well some risk and challenges we need to overcome. We saw like more junior engineers, suddenly the code quality absolutely improved. And it's one of the biggest changes I can observe is that suddenly junior engineers produce very high quality code. However, we need as well to train them how to really take this code and so they can assimilate it and not just copy paste code that is absolutely working. So there's a management challenge here on how can we train them to actually make progress and learn and get this experience that used to be really on the field and you need to spend hours and hours on this code. Now they can have it at the grasp of their hand. So suddenly how can we train them to actually assimilate and not just copy paste something they just see without this deep thinking they can have before.
And so how do you do? What did you implement in your team to train those junior?
Well, we actually don't train the junior directly. It's more like it's a manager, and I say it's a management issue. So how does the manager, how can we make the manager be more aware as well that this suddenly increasing quality actually hides something else, and how to reallocate as well the time of the managers on spend more hands-on time, really management function, and not just, let's say, project delivery, but really hands-on training and spend more time with the junior engineers to actually correct their code, give them new ideas, not just trust the machine, but trust as well the human experience from my managers.
So is there a big difference between how the juniors are using these generative AI codes and how the more senior engineers are using it?
Yeah, absolutely. Juniors engineers, they are more in a, let's say, task-oriented. They have a task to solve, and so they just use it to, I have this problem, I want it to be solved, this problem. Senior engineers, they really see it as if they have a buddy engineer next to them. They have ideas, they iterate with the machine, they ask them and then challenge the machine as well. They say, no, I don't want to do this problem like this. Can we find another solution? So they have more, as if it's a conversation with someone, where the junior engineers is more, I have this problem, give me the solution, and that's it.
And do you see some difference also in the expectation about what they want to do, what they want to learn in the project?
The junior, yeah, it's more like they want instant answers because they have this problem they need to solve. The senior engineers, at the end, they're interested in the craft and they already have an idea of what they want. So it's more like, how can I get there in a more elegant way or according to what I have? And maybe they can take a step back and see in the big picture of the project and say, oh, I can make something more durable and more scalable for like large-scale projects.
Would you say that the junior engineers you hire, are they more aware of all the last evolution, the last technologies, rather than the senior? So do you allocate to them all the difficulties in Gen AI because they're more aware, or it's not like it doesn't work like this?
No, it doesn't work like this. I do not believe the juniors are more aware because, okay, they're more young and they're more like tech savvy. Actually, I think it's a bit the opposite because the juniors, they know what they know, but they don't have maybe the full depth or where to look, where to get the proper information. And it's part of as well of the experience of a senior engineer. They have the good channel of communication when they know, oh, I have this source that I can trust. And maybe they have a more like technical documents. I know, for example, I use Twitter a lot. I have like a 10 years curated list where I have all the engineers for 10 years. So I have this exactly at the source, this knowledge. When the junior engineer, they don't have yet this experience on who to trust, where to trust them. And so they have a more selected, let's say, source of information, where senior engineers have a more broad perspective on things.
That means that everyone in your team has time to keep up to date with those new evolution, to train itself. How do you organize this?
Well, I don't know if they all have time, but I tell my team every day, like the first thing you need to do when you arrive at work is you dedicate time to read, actually. And if you look at my own agenda, my first thing in the morning is like reading time, because this keeping up to date is work. Some people think you have to do it outside of work time, and actually no, it's key. This is work time. And the first thing you say, what happened yesterday? Is there news? And internally, we developed some communication channel where we develop like technical reading as a service, where every engineer can just say, hey, I read this piece, it's very cool. And that's one of the guidelines of this chat room we have, is like, you need to have read the piece and find it cool. No question asked, whatever, just, oh, this is a really cool piece, really interesting. You should read it up. And so everyone, we have this knowledge sharing where everyone that find a cool piece, you just share it with the people. And so everyone has a piece of information, and you do not have to spend too much time actually looking for the information, but you can spend the time reading it.
And so what do you see at your client's organization? Is it changing the way they work or the way they define roles inside the company?
I believe it does, a bit the same way it happened for us. Generative AI creates a lot of reflection on technical roles and how to handle them, how to train them, and all the challenges they can have. We can see it at the client's place. I think the coding aspect of things, the clients sees it as really can we gain productivity. They usually have a massive engineering organization, and they want to find how can we actually use the best of our engineers in the more efficient way. And we see them thinking, how can we maybe have more tactical teams, more efficient, maybe smaller teams, but that can tackle many different projects, because there is a transformative power of generative AI, and we expect a lot of gains from it. And so they're like, how can we as well restructure the teams to actually handle more projects in a more efficient way because of this.
And what are the good practice that you see on the ground?
I think what I see is the best practice is how can you still give power and ability to test things, not to be immediately in a restrictive mode or a few teams. So like keep some slack to let innovation happen. And at the same time, be very aware of some security risk they can have and how to actually train them in order to protect as well the organization and not disclose any secret, for example. And yeah.
So the most advanced client you have, what are they doing in comparison with the one who are a bit behind?
The most advanced one are the one that actually immediately really embrace this technology. There are teams that were innovative, they already adapted their way of working, the software they were using, how they would code. Some of the teams immediately went to this is a gift and how can we really take this? And these teams then they learn, they share the knowledge a lot. So communication is really key for them, how they can actually transmit this knowledge and how their own best practices within the organization. Less mature team, usually they were a bit more risk-averse at the beginning, thinking, okay, we need to regulate a bit how to use it before giving it to everyone. And so usually it's organization where only a selected few of people have access to generative AI. And so this knowledge transmission and this sharing of best practice is maybe a bit slower than mature organization.
Would you say that generative AI makes like a very big gap in comparison with what happened with AI, but before that, everything related to data?
I believe it does, in a way that AI was still very secluded to, let's say, the happy few. You had to be engineers to actually harness the power of AI. What really changed with generative AI is how suddenly it became everyone can use it. You do not need to be an engineer, you do not need to be a strong coder, or you don't even need to have done machine learning studies. So anyone can actually use the tool, talk with it, and improve. So it's open to everyone, and everyone can really progress because of this.
And so this difference in terms of maturity, it's important for knowledge sharing, you explained that, but do you also see that in terms of profile and job descriptions?
I don't think there's going to be like some role will disappear and new role will emerge. I don't think it's going to be a massive change like AI could have brought. For example, data scientists were created with AI. I don't think it's going to be such a change now. However, of course, the responsibility of this person might change, might evolve, but regular AI will still exist and it will still happen. Despite generative AI, we still have this profile. However, maybe on what the people will focus, maybe it's going to be less on the code writing part, but more on business understanding and how to actually solve business problem with AI in a general sense of the term. And engineers, we're still going to need data engineers and building the pipelines, building the front end. It's more like some of the time will be allocated to something else, but the jobs will remain roughly the same.
Let's take a very concrete example. If you are hiring someone and you're doing interviews, is there some new things you are taking care of, something you are looking for that you were not looking before?
I think the way we do interviews changed tremendously. It was easy in the technical world to do interviews like coding interviews. I have this very simple problem, solve it for me, finding clever ways. Now, these kind of interviews are pointless. Generative AI will solve in the most efficient way, and for us, it's not a way to test. And this is where we shift. Now I'm going to be focused more on engineers, actually, not just coders, but engineers. They have problem, they have business problem. How would you tackle business problem to bring value to the organization, rather than just, this is a pure engineering problem and let's solve it.
And so are you looking for different skill than before?
No, it's roughly the same, because we want people that formulate a problem, express it, find solution to that problem, and find sometimes different solutions. It could be the easy one, it could be the more complex one, and how to actually find either the optimal one, and optimal being most efficient, quicker to access or reach. But these were the same skills I was looking for before.
And what's the perfect profile of someone who is good at this? Is it someone who has got a lot of experience, with someone who has the perfect CV with the right school, or is it someone who code a lot, or what are you looking at?
The main characteristic I'm looking for is curiosity. The field is going extremely fast. Every week, every month, there is new technology, new everything. So I need persons that is very interested in this change and is like not afraid of challenging themselves, thinking, I knew this, but this is changing and let's discover what's bring next. And I think that's the key in technical people. You need to be curious to actually keep learning and keep challenging yourself.
And in fact, it's very massive, the amount of announcements and change in the technologies. And how do you keep up to date?
Well, I have a few channels. I mentioned I have a Twitter list, very creative. I spend a lot of time doing it, and I think it's really important to actually doing this. And it's as well important to develop some sort of like critical thinking, not to be just reading all the press release and let's say marketing announcements, and as well just keep sometimes a cool head because it's easy to get into the hype and thinking, oh, it's massive, but sometimes keep a critical mind on, okay, is this really massive? Is this a big game changing? And sometimes there is some really nice change, but often it's just slightly incremental. It's not going to be groundbreaking or very changing, but you need to, keep a cool head on all this that happens.
So you're still on Twitter?
I am still on Twitter. It might change, but the thing is, like, there's a lot of, for the technical aspect of things, there's a lot of engineering from the Silicon Valley especially, and they're really on top of this trend. And we tried Mastodon, we tried Blue Sky. It's getting there, so maybe I will move. I tried, I have accounts, but yeah, right now Twitter is still for me the where I get the information at the source.
But in all this fame, is there something is very exciting for you? Something you really want to be part of it?
Recently all the breakthrough through visual language model. Because everyone knows generative AI mostly for large language model. ChatGPT is an example, but it used to be only text. And now there's a whole new field on how to have this multimodality between images and text, how we can give images to the AI, and how we can read, interpret, and how it unlocks actually new capabilities that before that it was really difficult to actually handle image, talk with it, get content, extract information. And there's a whole new breakthrough in this visual language model, and it's very, very exciting.
Do you have some plan to test this?
Yes, absolutely. We're already starting on new projects with clients. There's a whole new field on information extraction. We see it at clients. Sometimes they have people reading at documents and then taking this information by hand with human labor there. And we are suddenly, what was very difficult to automatize, for example, now we have AI reading documents, extracting information, and just entering the information in another system. And so these low value added tasks suddenly can be completely automatized, and it would unlock more time with a higher value for the people at the companies.
And I guess you sometimes meet other CTOs from other companies. Do they have the same challenge in mind, or do they have some specificities?
I believe they share some challenges, but I know one of the big challenges I see, for example, is when you have an organization that's very established, you usually have some legacy software, some software that has been running for 10, 15 years, where the people that used to build this maybe leave the company or just stop using the software, and they have a challenge on how to make this critical piece of infrastructure still running. And AI, for them, it can be a really way to document this piece of software. How did it work? What was the decision that were made maybe 10, 15 years ago, where we don't know why it was built this way. And they have a lot of challenge in that, and I know they use generative a lot to actually maintain the critical piece of infrastructure.
And so there is a trend in all what you see. It's all about knowledge sharing and sharing information, sharing documentation. So is it the real impact of generative AI for you? It's information? I
believe so. It can be either sharing it or extracting it, but at the end of the day, we all collectively progress if we all communicate, and actually it's communication, exactly. And how can we share this knowledge to make everyone aware and in progress?
How do you see the next step, the future evolution in this field?
I believe it will be a bit more automatization. Now we have something that are really more task specified, and we see it now with everything around agents and all this agenting AI, how we can have the AI maybe make more decision, maybe multi-steps, doing not just one task, but chain different tasks and let the AI actually think by themselves on how to solve the best way of problem. And I think this is really exciting there.
And so what do you think about the quote from the CEO of NVIDIA? Do you think as a IT director you're going to be a HR director of agents?
No, I believe it's still a bit hype there. I see why. I think it's as well an organization challenge. It's a bit cheeky to say the IT will become the HR, but I see where actually IT used to be maybe sometimes considered as a cost center, and what's really new with generative AI is like suddenly IT become a profit center, and I think there's going to be a lot of organizational change regarding this aspect.
Yes, something that's also important in this declaration, it's how important is it to have IT and close to the real project, to the real work, and is it something that you try to implement already?
Yes, absolutely, and especially with our client, we see it as well. It used to be as well, the same way we were siloed in Artefact, organization and our clients sometimes have these silos, and now they're kind of breaking this barrier and bringing IT people more into the project, more with the business, to actually as well be a part of the change and be a part of how to solve their challenge.
To conclude, do you have a recommendation for people who want to go deeper in this subject, like a book or maybe an article?
Yeah, I think there's a whole newsletter. It's called The Pragmatic Engineer. It's from a former engineering manager at Uber, and I really like this topic because he goes deep into actually demystify some aspect of engineering. It could be generative AI, and all actually generative AI impacted developers, but it as well could be how to actually ship product into production, all the engineering challenges many organizations can have. And so it's a really nice newsletter with a lot of knowledge sharing, like guests that share their knowledge from the field, and it's a very goldmine for any engineering manager.
It's very interesting. Robin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this new episode. See you very soon for a new episode of The Bridge.